The night Emily Carter realized she had already disappeared from her own life did not begin with a fight. It began with silence, the kind that fills American living rooms after the television keeps talking but no one is listening anymore. Rain tapped against the windows of her Portland apartment, steady and cold. While the city outside moved on without her, Emily stood in the bedroom staring at a suitcase lying open on the bed. She didn't remember pulling it out. She didn't remember deciding to pack. Clothes were folded inside anyway, neat and careful, as if her hands had made a choice her mind was too tired to face. She was 42 years old, married for 11 years, successful on paper, safe in every way that mattered to other people, and completely empty. In the living room, her husband Daniel slept on the couch, his chest rising slowly. The glow from the TV flickered across his face. They hadn't planned it that way. It had just happened. First one night, then another, until the couch became his place and the bedroom became hers. No shouting, no betrayal she could point to. Just distance, growing quietly like weeds through concrete. Emily pressed her fingers to her temple. Her head ached, but not from pain, from thinking too much and feeling too little. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and leaned against the counter. The clock read 8:41 p.m. outside, headlights blurred through the rain. She wondered, not for the first time, how a person could feel lost while standing inside their own home. Then the sound came, a knock, not loud, not urgent, just firm enough to demand attention. Emily froze. Her heart jumped hard against her ribs. No one visited this late. Their friends always called first. Her parents lived states away. Neighbors never knocked unless something was wrong. The knock came again. Her mind raced through possibilities as she walked toward the door. Every step felt heavy, like she was moving through water. She rested her hand on the handle and took a breath. When she opened the door, the air smelled like rain and wet pavement. Michael Reed stood there. For a second, Emily forgot how to breathe. Michael looked the same as he had that morning. Calm, his brown hair slightly unkempt, eyes steady and thoughtful. He held a dark leather notebook in one hand and his jacket in the other. Rain clinging to the fabric. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, his voice gentle. "I know it's late." "You left this at the cafe?" Emily stared at the notebook. Notebook. The one she carried everywhere. The one filled with half-written thoughts, private reflections, questions she never dared to ask herself out loud. "Oh," she said, her voice barely there. "Thank you." She reached for it, and there, fingers brushed. The contact was brief, accidental, but it sent a sharp awareness through her chest. She pulled her hand back as if surprised by her own reaction. Michael noticed the suitcase behind her. He didn't comment right away. He never rushed. That was something Emily had noticed about him from the beginning. "You okay?" he asked. Quietly. The question landed harder than she expected. Emily opened her mouth to answer honestly. But the truth felt too large to share on her doorstep. Too fragile, too exposed. "Yes," she said instead. It was the easiest lie she had told all week. Michael studied her face as if he could see past the word. His expression softened, not pushing, not judging. "I should go," he said after a moment. "I just didn't want you to lose it." "I'm glad you came," Emily replied, surprising herself. The rain fell harder now, filling the space between them. Michael took a step back. "Emily," he said, hesitating. "I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't need to, but I want you to know something." She waited. "You're not invisible," he said. "Not to me. Not to anyone who's really paying attention." Her throat tightened. She nodded, afraid that if she spoke, the tears would come. Michael turned and walked down the hallway, his footsteps fading. Emily watched until he disappeared around the corner. She closed the door slowly. Then she leaned against it and slid down to the floor. Her chest ached in a way she didn't recognize. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't fear. It was something warmer and more dangerous, a feeling she had almost forgotten. She stood up, wiped her eyes, and walked back to the bedroom. The suitcase still waited on the bed, patient and silent. She didn't close it. She didn't unpack it either. Instead, she sat on the edge of the mattress and opened the notebook Michael had returned. The first page held a sentence she had written weeks earlier. "I don't know when I stopped feeling like myself," she closed the book and held it against her chest. That night, Emily lay awake, listening to the rain and the distant sounds of the city. Daniel never came to bed. The television eventually went quiet, but the silence felt louder than ever. Her mind replayed moments from the past. 6 months. The first time she met Michael at the cafe near the river. She had been sitting alone writing. When he asked if the seat across from her was taken, they talked about books, then music, then life. Nothing deep at first. Just easy. She told herself it was harmless. They met again by chance. Then on purpose. Always public, always careful. No lines crossed. And yet something had shifted. Michael listened when she spoke. He remembered small details. He asked questions. That mattered. With him, Emily didn't feel like she was shrinking. She turned on her side, staring into the dark. This doesn't mean anything, she told herself. It can't. But her heart didn't agree. The next morning, Emily woke early, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table, the notebook open in front of her. Daniel passed through the room, nodded, and left for work. No argument, no goodbye kiss. Just routine. After he left, Emily closed the notebook and stared out the window. She went to work, answered emails, smiled at coworkers. No one noticed anything. Wrong. They never did. At lunch. She walked by the cafe without going in. Her heart beat faster anyway. Days passed. The knock stayed with her. Every sound at night made her look toward the door. Every quiet moment pulled her back to that brief exchange. That simple sentence. "You're not invisible." She hadn't realized how badly she needed to hear it until someone finally said it. 1 week later, Emily stood outside the cafe again. She told herself she was only stopping for coffee. Nothing more. The bell above the door rang as she stepped inside. Michael looked up from his seat by the DH. I looked up from his seat by the window. Our eyes met. Emily understood something she could no longer ignore. She wasn't lost because of where she was. She was lost because she had been living without being seen, and the knock on her door had changed everything, even if she didn't yet know where it would lead. Emily Carter woke up one morning with a clear thought that scared her more than confusion ever had. She could not go back to pretending. The decision did not arrive with drama or tears. It came quietly, like daylight slipping through a curtain. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, knowing that something in her life had already ended, even if no one had said the words yet. She moved through the apartment carefully that morning, as if the walls might hear her thoughts. Daniel was already gone for work. His coffee mug sat in the sink. His jacket was missing from the hook by the door. Small signs of a shared life that now felt borrowed. Emily dressed, grabbed her keys, and left. Outside, Portland looked the same. Same streets, same rain, same people rushing to places they believed mattered. But Emily felt different, like she was watching the world from a step closer instead of far away. She walked straight to the cafe. Michael was there. He sat near the window, a book open but unread, his coffee untouched. When he saw her, he didn't smile right away. He stood slowly, as if unsure whether he should. "I didn't know if you'd come back," he said. "I didn't either," Emily replied honestly. They sat. No small talk, no pretending. "I've been thinking about that night," Emily said. "About what you said?" Michael nodded. "I've been trying not to." She took a breath. "I don't want to cross lines. I just needed to see you, to feel real again." Michael looked at her carefully. "I don't want to be an escape," he said. "Or a mistake you regret later." "You're not," Emily said. "You're a mirror." They talked for hours about marriage, about fear, about how people stay too long because leaving feels like failure. Michael told her about his own passed-along relationship that faded without anger, just quiet loss. When they stood to leave, Emily felt something new. Not rush, not panic, clarity. At home that night, Daniel was cooking dinner. The smell filled the apartment, familiar and sad. "We need to talk," Emily said. Daniel didn't look surprised. They sat at the table, facing each other like strangers who shared history instead of love. "I don't think we've been happy for a long time," Emily said. "And I don't think we know how to fix it." Daniel rubbed his hands together. "I've felt it too," he admitted. "I just didn't want to be the one who said it out loud." There were tears. There was honesty. There were no raised voices. They talked until midnight. By the end, nothing was solved, but everything was named. The days that followed were heavy and necessary. Conversations replaced silence. Truth replaced routine. Emily didn't mention Michael. She didn't need to. This was about her marriage, not what came after. Eventually, Daniel said what both of them already knew. "I think we've been holding on to something that ended years ago," he said quietly. Emily nodded. "I think so too." They chose separation with respect. No blame, no drama. Just the people accepting that love sometimes changes shape until it disappears. Emily moved into a small apartment across town. It was quiet, empty, honest. The first night there, she sat on the floor eating takeout from the container. No TV, no noise, just her thoughts. She didn't call Michael. She needed to stand alone first. Weeks passed. Emily filled her days with work, long walks, and therapy sessions that left her drained but lighter. She learned how often she had made herself smaller to keep peace. She learned how easy it was to disappear inside comfort. One evening, she found herself standing outside the cafe again. Michael wasn't there. Disappointment surprised her. She smiled at herself for noticing. When she turned to leave, she heard her name. "Emily." Michael stood at the door, keys in hand. They laughed softly, the tension breaking. They walked along the river that night, hands in pockets, steps in sync. The conversation flowed easily, but there was care now. Awareness. "I heard about you and Daniel," Michael said. "I'm sorry. It was the right ending," Emily replied, "even if it hurts." He nodded. "I didn't want to assume anything." "I appreciate that," she said. They stopped near the water. The city lights reflected across the surface, moving but steady. "I'm not ready to rush," Emily said, "into anything." "Not asking you to," Michael replied. They stood there, close but not touching. That space between them felt important. Time continued forward, slowly, honestly. They met for coffee, for walks, for conversations that went deep without pressure. Emily felt something growing, not the heat of escape, but the warmth of choice. One night, months later, Emily sat in her apartment reading when she heard a knock. Her heart jumped. She stood, suddenly aware of the quiet. When she opened the door, Michael stood there holding a small paper bag. "I brought dinner," he said, "if that's okay." Emily smiled. "Yes," she said, stepping aside. "That's okay." They ate at the small table, talking about nothing and everything. When the food was gone, neither rushed to stand. "I want to say something," Michael said carefully, "and you can tell me no." Emily nodded. "I care about you," he said. "But I respect where you are. If all we ever are is this honest and slow, I'm good with that." Emily felt tears rise, not from pain, but from relief. "I don't feel lost anymore," she said. "I don't want to run. I want to walk." Michael reached for her hand, stopping just short. He waited. Emily closed the space. The touch was simple, steady, real. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, Emily felt grounded for the first time in years. She thought back to that first knock on her old door. How afraid she had been, how unseen. Now, standing in her own space, with her own choices, she understood the truth. She hadn't been saved, she had been awakened. And this time, when the door opened, she stepped forward fully present, fully herself and ready for whatever came next.